Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's Inspiring Leadership podcast. I'm delighted to have Elke Anderl. Elke is the Chief Commercial Officer for T-Systems International, a fascinating organization of 26,000 people around the world. Elke, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much for having me.
No, it's a real pleasure. Let's talk about T-Systems because it is a huge organization doing some amazing work. Tell me a bit about that, and then tell me about being a Chief Commercial Officer.
Thank you very much. Yeah, as you mentioned, T-Systems is a 26,000 employee company. We are an integral part of the Deutsche Telekom group with 200,000 employees. For T-Systems, we serve large enterprises with IT solutions. So that means from consultancy advisory to application layer, application modernization, application management, the whole portfolio around AI, including the infrastructure like different cloud solutions. This is our key differentiator in the market, and we serve, of course, our group, Deutsche Telekom, and many external customers in different industries.
Yeah, it's a fascinating area, and particularly I think so much in cloud and digital and AI, such big changes going on, and everybody's struggling with it, aren't they?
Absolutely. This is now really on top of all of our customers. It's, there are two topics or 2 to 3 topics that always come in our discussions with different CEOs and CIOs. The one is about cloud and sovereignty of cloud, and not so much only of cloud, the sovereignty of your data, of your operations, of your technology. And the other big topic is really what workload, what application should be on which cloud, and what are the decision criteria. And the second topic is really about AI. So everybody experimented with AI, but now it's about, what's actually the real impact? What's the outcome? What's the return on the invest I'm taking? How do I see that in my balance sheet? So these are key topics. Currently, really everybody is discussing, and this is of course a great opportunity for us to engage with our clients, to support, to challenge each other. What's the best solution? And I think that's really an amazing role I'm having as Chief Commercial Officer. That means I'm globally responsible for actually sales and marketing. So I think the better name would be Chief Customer Officer, because that's my responsibility.
And they say you are one of the role models for many people of someone who is passionate about looking after your customers, your colleagues, and we're all going to be together at an offsite soon. I'm looking forward to working with you and your team. But they all, in individual feedback, spoke about how well you get on with customers. You really care about them. You get to know the CIOs and CEOs and find out what their needs are. And many people just see it as a transaction, but you see it as a long-term relationship, don't you?
Absolutely. I think it's a long-term relationship, and it's a standing relationship. So I really would like my customers to feel they can reach out to me at any time. So that's important. And I really need to understand the challenges of my customers. Otherwise, I cannot support them. I cannot help them. And this is really the main importance for me, to really know our business in detail, but always put our customer really in the center of our decisions, really understand their needs or how they need to solve their customer challenges. And if this is kind of leading your behavior, leading your actions, then I think, it's paid back. And this is for me extremely important.
Yeah, and someone who was a chief commercial officer used to say to me that, it's really important. First, give them what they want and what they ask for. They're presenting issues, but then give them what they really need. But they may not know that because they don't fully understand the complexity of their business or what is world class or what else there is available to them. They go, I've just got this pain. Just take the pain away from me, make it better. Do you find that?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I also see. That's what I hear. But this is kind of when you get to the real discussions, the honest discussions, it's not about solving kind of or answering an RFP. It's not about this.
No.
If you select a partner for your application modernization or your cloud infrastructure, you want a partner you can trust.
Yeah.
Someone, it's like, um, going to a marriage actually, because it's a long-term commitment.
Yeah.
It's someone, who will help you if there is something wrong and things go wrong. So it's more that you're there also in the critical times, that you're reachable, that you're there. And this is something we also have as one of our mantras, to say we are small enough to really care for our customers, but still big enough to help them on their global scale.
I think so. And I'd use this analogy. So for those listening, you won't know, but I'm holding up two glasses. One is full and the other one is empty. And I do come across this one where people try and engage with a client and they've got no relationship with them, the empty glass. Whereas actually, you've got to build up the emotional bank account with them through trust, respect, getting to know them, spending quite a bit of time with them before you then try and force on them a sale, because actually you don't know them. And until you've walked in their shoes and understood their organization, only when you've filled up the emotional bank account and the relationship is strong with them, then they'll trust you enough to buy from you. But don't just come in and just try and transact. Very few people buy that. Talking about the CIOs that you deal with,
Mm-hmm.
you and I were speaking before this about who you find as CIOs to be really inspiring leaders that you want to shout out for, that maybe you haven't told these couple of people that you find them inspiring. So we'll go external first, and then we'll look internally to the organization of the whole of Deutsche Telekom. But if you were to pick out two people, who would be the first one that you find an inspiring leader, and what character
Mm-hmm.
do they have?
Mm-hmm. So it's not an easy question, I have to admit, because I meet lots of inspiring people. But if I have to pick um, two come to my mind. The first one would be Owen O'Connell. He is CIO within Shell, a long-term partner of ours, and he is really inspiring because he has the clarity. He's very clear in setting his expectations. He is very outspoken in also giving your feedback, what is good, the good, the bad, the ugly. And
Mm-hmm.
this is important because you can't get better if you don't know what you can improve.
Mm.
And I really like this openness, and I really like the clarity. And he's just someone knowing his business in detail. He's very integrating, but just very, very clear also on the expectations towards his team, but also towards a partner.
Yeah, that's great. And then you mentioned the CIO of Mercedes. Tell us about Katrin.
Yeah, Katrin Lehmann, she is really an inspiring leader as well. What I really like that, in the automotive industry, it's really a challenging time at the moment.
Mm.
All the different uncertainties, all the different challenges coming from China, um, coming from, different competitions, electrification, and so on. You all know that. But she has kind of set the scene in showing how she can transform in these really turbulent times. And what I really like, that she puts that in symbols, to integrate everybody and make everybody understand why, the purpose, why she's doing that. And she, for example, Mercedes is from the south of Germany, from Stuttgart. So it's the Swabians, and the Swabians are, I mean, I can say that because I'm from there. We have a specific culture, I would say, or some things we do. One is, for example, the Kehrwoche. I don't know if you know what the Kehrwoche is. It's actually,
No.
the Swabians want it really always clean and tidy, and they work a lot, and their house is very important, or their apartment. So if you live in an apartment house with different apartments, the Swabians need to make sure that once a week we take turn in cleaning, so in front of each other's doors and out of the pavement, so to really have everything nice and shiny. And it's very important that it's very clean. You clean really all edges. You're specific about this. And she put that also as a metaphor to say, let's clean in front of our own door first, make our house nice and shiny in order to be ready for the transformation. And this is just some of the examples what I really, really like.
No, I love that. And it's sorting your own house. It's leading by example. It's how can you give anybody else any advice if you don't sort yourself out? Now,
That's
you have a great reputation in Deutsche Telekom. You're in great demand. You're in demand for this role. You were being hunted to come and do this role as the chief commercial officer. And so congratulations on that. But who are a couple of CEOs within the bigger Deutsche Telekom of 200,000 people that you want to call out and their particular aspects of what make them successful?
So I definitely would like to call out our CEO of T-Systems, Ferry Abul Hassan, because, he is a very inspirational leader also in this transformational area. So I have worked with him and I have really seen how he was able to transform the customer service. And it was not kind of an easy walk. It was really a journey where he was really very diligent and very almost rigorous, I would say, in the sense of doing this transformation, but always keeping in mind a very simple mantra. It's always investing in your team, in your people, investing in your customers. And by really doing this, so listen to your team, listen to your customer, then you know what to do. You do the right things, and that will then result in the financial positive results, which gives you then freedom, but also the confidence and the credibility to really get the whole transformation moving. So having been part of this transformation is for me very motivating, very energizing, and this is also like one of the reasons I really like to work with him.
Fantastic. And you also mentioned Tim Hutchers, the
Yeah,
CEO of the whole group. Tell us about Tim.
exactly. So he is what I think he is. He's really, if you talk about leadership presence, that's him. When he comes to a room, I think he's the specific leader you will recognize, which I think really interesting to see and to watch, to learn from. But what I feel he is very special is on, he's communicating extremely well on the purpose, being paranoid on what can happen to lead the company to always the better next step. So becoming the ninth most valuable brand of the world is something he led the team towards too, and I think this is something for me still inspiring. Why? Because I've been 25 years with the company, and it was a journey, and to be now really part of this top brands, that means something to me. That means something, what you can experience, what journey you gone through. But it's also important for my current role because, with a great brand, with a great reputation, with our magenta feeling and family, it's very good to get talents from the market or to retain talent. So it has also really a good reason in the sense of why it's so important to work on the brand.
Which leads us rather nicely, those 25 years that you've done that.
Mm.
Before that, I'd love to know your origin story. So, here you are, 25 years, and you've learned so much in so many different roles. You've been around the world. You've had a whole variety of different roles in different parts of the world, and that's taught you so much. And you're constantly learning and growing, as I know in working with you. I just see you always open to a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. But how did it all begin? What is it that shaped the leader we meet today, Elke?
Mm. I think it began a little bit that I'm born as the middle child.
Hmm.
So, I think this is something where I always try to find my ways to to kind of stand out a little bit. I have my older sister. She is, then very soon then made her own way and had really the challenging times with, I guess, with my parents. We are three girls, so she did all the hard work, I would say. My little sister, only 1 year younger, but she's the little one. Everybody took care of her, and which is good. I really love both of them, and we are very close. But I was always kind of somewhere in the middle, and then I said, okay, I need to find my way. And my way was that very early I said, okay, I need to get out of this little village I'm born, and therefore, I early decided that I want to be really good in school. So I really loved school. I'm one of these that that really like to go to school. I was really doing all my homework. I studied and learned, and I just wanted to really be good at school in order to understand, that this is will open the doors to get out a little bit of this small and tiny world. And this is what I did. So after my Abitur, before I went to university, I spent a year in New York and Boston as a nanny, as an au pair, which was interesting because you need to take responsibility very early, and it was not as easy as it sounded, honestly speaking. But yeah, that made me a little bit to the person I am, to understand if you want something really hard and you work for this, you can make everything happen. So I went out, and then I studied. I knew very well what I wanted to study, and started my career in the automotive industry. And then I started also to go out and spend some time in Singapore, 3 years, 3 years in Tokyo. So this also shaped me as a person, because it was not an easy way, especially in Tokyo with a very special culture as a young female in the automotive industry mainly, or in the IT industry, where I took a leadership role very early, and I had to really work my way to get accepted. And that's different than it was in other roles, maybe here in Germany.
Well, what a fascinating life. And I think you touch on so much there. I think the first thing, I was the youngest. I was like your younger sister. I was the third boy. My middle brother always said, when I went, I can't reach the light, David. Can you turn the light on? Do it yourself. Get a chair. So didn't want me to have the easy life. But yeah, I think as the middle child, it is fascinating what happens. And realizing you were in a small world, you wanted to make it a much bigger world. And boy, you've made it a big world. A colleague with 200,000 people in something that's so globally powerful. But then also just those different experiences of different cultures. Somebody after a while of living in the UK or Germany can become British or German, but you can never become Japanese unless you were born there, they say. They'll never really fully accept you. And you touch on something which, the very male-dominated automotive industry, which really touches on many of the female leaders that I've had on the podcast, have to work exceptionally hard to get recognition and acceptance in what is pretty biased towards the men. What's your tip for other women listening to this about when you're in a particularly male-dominated industry like you have been, IT and automotive?
Yeah, it's difficult to give really this one tip. One is important to understand this unconscious bias, because sometimes they just do not see you in that role. They have a different picture of someone leading the IT or the automotive industry. So I think it's very important to be aware of, everybody works in different drawers, and they put you in a drawer. And if you don't fit in the drawer, then there is something, a challenge. And I think to be aware of that, you can address that and openly address that. But honestly speaking, I fully agree. I would always also say I had to work different or harder sometimes than others, because you first need to prove that you know the business, that you're reliable, that, you know, they can trust you, you have the experience. So that's good. Although I have to say, I talked to one of my clients a few weeks back, and he said, I think it's great that we have a female commercial officer. I like to work a lot more with women because they're more reliable and they work harder and help me more. So I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
think so.
if this is a good feedback or not, but I think yeah, there are some values we can bring in the sense of caring, in the sense of, understanding their needs. I think sometimes we always maybe listen a little bit more than talk too much. That's also important. And to take really care, get things done, execution. We want to prove ourselves, and this is something that also drives me.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge, having watched you with the Geschäftsleitung, the GL, the sort of leadership team with Ferry, you are very skilled at listening and then summarizing what you hear. And some of your colleagues are very good at talking, but they don't listen as well as you do. Now, you can't generalize, like saying all men are like this or women like this, because even the neuroscientists say there are women with male brains and males with female brains. But then there's men with men's brains, and they're talking. They want your opinion, they'll give it to you, and they're very opinionated. But look, this is fascinating. And what about, I learned, I think as one CEO said to me, I learned so much from my mistakes. I think I'll go and make a few more. And if you were to think about not necessarily mistakes, but just difficult moments in your personal life or in your work life that really hit you hard, but you learned a lot from it when you'd resolved it, what was one of the examples you'd give of a dark moment in your life and what you learned?
It's difficult to say there is this one dark moment. I have dark moments more or less daily. I think
Me too. Yeah, yeah,
maybe they're not dark, but at least gray, I would say. So
yeah.
for me, it's sometimes also the small things, that are important, where you learn a lot, where you maybe estimated some situation wrongly, or did not listen carefully enough, or did not prepare diligently. And that does not mean that you have to analyze forever, but at least it's very important that you understand, that you take conscious decisions. And I think this is something I really learned the hard way. Always when I have not completely understood, and when there is something telling me something is not logic there, and everybody's pressuring you for a decision, and I make a decision, I think this is the things where I learned a lot to say, no, it's not yet right. I need to take the decision when I feel what I hear. And it's not that I do all the decisions on myself. I try to ask the right questions to understand the situation, to make really a good decision. But I need to find that this is logic, that this is something I can explain to someone. And this is a learning. Is it a dark moment? It can be. It can turn a dark moment, because if you take um, decisions where you're not standing behind, um, usually it's not a good decision.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole point of decision making and having some logic is very important. A lot of people confuse opinions with facts, and they give over opinions as if they are facts, but they're not based on facts. It's a gut feeling. It's just what they think. And so having the logic and having the facts behind it's very important. If we took you back to Elke, age 16, what bit of advice would you give to the younger self? This matters, this doesn't. What would be your advice?
So my advice would be, on the one side, still be really courageous, be brave, do the things, believe in yourself even more than what I did that time. So this believing in yourself, do what you love, you know learn every day, be a learner. That's something so important. And the other advice I would also give myself, it's important to listen to others, but don't let them make you smaller, or maybe look not good, or whatsoever. It's just their opinion.
Yeah.
It only counts what's important to you. Don't, you can't please everybody. You can't be everybody's darling. And I think to learn that early, that would have helped me a little bit more. And that's
Yeah.
important. And I think that's very critical.
Yeah. You make me smile because I have my wife and I, Lee, and I have 4 children and now 4 grandchildren, and the children are married and they've got their grandchildren, and more are appearing as we are speaking. And one of my children was saying, "Oh, there's this person, and she's a bit difficult with me, and I really want her to get along with us easier, but she doesn't." I said, "Look, just accept you can't control her and what she thinks about you. The only thing you can control is your own thoughts and your own actions. And if we worry too much what other people think about us, we'd be surprised how little they do. They're not thinking about us; they're thinking about themselves." And we cannot make them like us or whatever it is. We just have to do the right thing and worry less what others think. I know we've got to be emotionally intelligent and respectful, but I do think, I speak personally, I've spent too much of my life very intense worrying about what this person thinks about me, or how to do a good job for my boss so he likes me and thinks I'm doing well. And I think I wasted a lot of life energy worrying about what others thought. Let's go around the emotional, around the Inspiring Leadership Compass, what I call the CEO's Compass, which is the topic of the next book, which you are going to be in, Elke. And it's all around this how to navigate a team through turbulent times. And aren't we all in turbulent times? And if you're not, I suggest you have a quick chat with Donald Trump, and he'll make sure you are in a turbulent time. He'll change whatever you thought was stable and make it unstable. But if you were to think about moral quotient, the first one, I know that doesn't really, moral quotient and Donald Trump don't go together, but if we were to think of moral quotient and the true north of values and principles that you live by, so that people can trust you and know what you will and won't do, and when you're speaking, you are telling the truth. What would be your top tip for people when they let their values slip? How do they get themselves back on? What have you found has worked for you?
So I think what's very important is to really, think about again what you want to stand for. What is important, that others, might want to see in you, and to really articulate that. Because I always tell the people, the teams, the colleagues, it's your choice. You choose every day your attitude. You choose when you stand up. If if you go and get out and complain about whatever else, or if you say, I want to just make a difference today, I want to contribute. And if people think about that, how much happier they can be, and how much they can get back to their values once they see that it's your choice, it's nobody else's. And this is what I usually try to tell everybody. And I also tell this to myself, what difference do I want to make? Is it now again, that I should complain that I had to get up very early or work very long? It's my choice. It's
Yeah.
nobody else's. And you're responsible for the actions and the words you say. And we should always be, quite conscious about that one.
Yeah, and I do so love what you say there. And 2 thoughts come to mind. One is that people want to know that the rhetoric, the words we use, are matched by how we behave, because they watch what we do. They don't watch what we say. People forget what you say, they forget what you do, but they never forget how you make them feel. And be very conscious. How do I want people to feel at the end of this meeting? How do I want people to feel at the end of this podcast, even? And in my case, I would like people to feel informed, excited, stimulated, new ideas that they've got from you and your experience, and that they can stretch themselves and be more inspired leaders themselves. That's how I'd like people to feel. But you touched on happiness and values. And I think somebody said to me once that the difference between success and success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you already have. And a lot of people don't appreciate what they already have. And I think it's very easy for us in a very driven, high performance organization to catch people doing things wrong. But if you, and I know it's your habit, can catch them doing things right and tell them what you want more of, they'll focus on what you want. Let's go on to purpose question, the next one around of the 8 principles of what make inspiring leaders. What is the essence of what gives your life meaning and purpose? And how would you advise others to find their sense of purpose and meaning in their life?
So I think, and there is always meaning and purpose. You know, what you get from your, I would call it your private life, from your family, from your friends. You know what makes you laugh, what makes you enjoy. How can you help? How can you support? And this is for me meaningful. You know, if I can also help my family, if I can support them, they are supporting me. It's a very, it's very close. It's a very close relationship, and that's very important. And this is what gives me real purpose. And for me, also, I have to admit, work is a very dominant part of my life. But here I always look into where can I really leave a footprint? What can I do different? And how can others feel that it's different? Because it's not the PowerPoint. You know, we do so many initiatives, we do so many things. But one of our CEOs once told me that he said, Elke, you know, what you really need to care about is if you then walk to the office or walk to your customer, what is it that they feel that is different, or they tell you that it is different? And only if you always ask these questions, if you do changes or some initiatives, that brings the real purpose of something. Because otherwise it's good, you know, it's some nice little step to something better, and yes, that's important. But if you really want to do something different, then you need to ask these questions honestly, and not really just saying, yeah, we do now something really nice and great, but at the end nobody feels the difference.
Yeah.
The
No,
waste
I think
of time.
making a difference, adding value, making a difference to lives. But at the end of the day, for me, my wife, my relationship with my wife, the 4 children we have, their partners, and the grandchildren, that's really special. But you're right, my life and my work is a very key part of what gives my life meaning, to inspire leadership in you and others. That's what is my calling. It's why I'm on the planet. You got to work out, why are you here? One of the challenges for you and I, and for many leaders listening, I am certain probably 95% of those listening, is that we do get so passionate about our work that we forget to look after the next element, which is our health quotient, HQ. This is about creating psychological safety, a healthy environment to work in, but it's also about looking after your mental and your physical health and well-being. And as we work harder, we tend to sacrifice this bit, and sleep and rest and a bit of meditation and some fitness and some training in the gym. But those who know from the podcast, I'm quite fanatical. 4 times a week, I will run 3 kilometers, and then I will train for an hour or more with a personal trainer or on my own. So I've made it part of my routine, but many are so busy they don't have that time. What's your tip about health and well-being? And I'm sure there's always room in your life for a bit more.
Absolutely. So you caught me there really on something I'm not really good at, and I need to improve. And I already have a plan how to. So what really helps me is good sleep. So that's something which is important to me. If I don't sleep enough, I'm too slow in thinking. That's what I immediately realize. So sleep is for me really incredibly important. And now I really, since my weak points were really that I always prioritize work and the other whatever approval things or PowerPoints or whatsoever, and not really looking too much of myself. But now I found something that I really, really like. And I don't want to do now a commercial on it, but I just really have to say it's so special. I now have a Peloton.
Oh,
And
yes.
why is it so important and so special? It's not the sport. It's, how you feel being on the bike. So they have this incredible trainers, and you get on this bike, and then it's not so much about sweating and working, but it's how they make you feel. There's my favorite trainer, Fred, and he's like, Elke, it's just between the two of us. It's so great that you have made it here. Don't let anybody else tell you something different. You're the best. It was your choice. Thank you for making this a special day. Thank you for being here with me. It's great. Give a high five to the others. We are not alone. We do that together. And then it's like, yes, it's good. No, I'm great. So it's so much also on like this mental
Yeah.
feeling
Oh, yeah.
special, and it's not so much only on the sports that somebody is telling you, every 30 minutes you squeeze out, it's good and it's good for you and you made that. So
Yeah.
I'm a real fan, I have to say.
Well done. Well, I'm tempted to get one. My wife and I are doing a cycle ride in 4 weeks' time with a group of other CEOs and leaders to raise money for her charity, the Inspiring Leadership Foundation,
Mhm.
helping the victims of violence against women and girls. And so we need to get on the bike and ride. But I haven't bought a Peloton yet. At the moment, I've just got rollers where I attach my bike, take off the front wheel.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
actually, I
Mhm.
need a motivational speaker. That's why I like on Sunday, my wife and I train with a personal trainer who comes to we've converted the garage into a gym and it's all equipped. And that's great. And I'm just buzzing. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. That's fantastic. Okay. So from health to emotional intelligence, it is something that people value in you. And not because it's not about because you're a female. It's just you have a good level of emotional and social intelligence. And one of the skills that others speak about is your ability to listen well to other people. What's your tip to people listening who are told they're not very good listeners? What would your advice be to them?
My advice is really to, especially if you're with customers, but actually with anybody, if you're there where you need information, that it's important they tell you, not you assume you know what they want to tell you. That's the first thing you have to have in mind. And then really be patient. Try to really get the eye contact with your person next to you, or across, and really lead by questions, by the right questions that
Mm.
makes them talk, that makes them also feel that you're really interested in what they want to solve, what they want to do. So for me, it's always important to really, first of all, I prepare myself extremely well, because I think time, as both of us, we also talk a lot, is a precious good. And also especially for customers, always think about time they spend an hour with you. It's precious. It's 60 minutes. So better prepare well and make the best out of it. And to make the best out of it is to ask the right questions, but let them tell you what they want, what they feel, what they need to solve. And this is something, I feel, others, they just try to come in and push something they've prepared on your clients or your partners, and at the end it's not worthwhile, not for you and not for the other.
That's really good advice. And particularly this aspect of not pushing onto people, but to really understand, to walk a mile in their shoes and to understand what their presenting issues are and the deeper issues behind those presenting issues. I think that's so important. Linked to that, to Michelle, is what we call CQ, collaborative, cognitive, and cultural intelligence. And in all the teams you've been in, one of the big things you and I talked about is how do you get people in their various silos working together for the systemic good of the customer, of the organization, but rather than, well, I'm looking after my bit's fine, but she hasn't done hers or he hasn't done his. And so the skill there is getting on with people who are very different from you, but also working as a team. What would be your top tip in this area, getting on people who are different from you and collaborating more? What would be your advice on collaborating
all,
and getting on with people who are quite different?
Yeah. So first of all, it's about trust. It's about trusting each other, and working on a common goal. And that's I think is the key topic here. How will trust develop in getting together, sharing experiences? And my top tip is really here, don't wait too long to also work with a coach. And I think this is also thanks to you, Jonathan, you made really an incredible difference in how our team develops because you can ask different questions and challenge the teams, what's behind the not trusting, or do you feel more the tension in maybe in the room, and it's also different if somebody not as part of this group is kind of putting the elephant in the room, addressing this. And I think that's the most important, to really understand, even if you're different, and understanding that some people are different, colleagues think differently, they have a different profile, they have different characteristics, they make different decisions, but also to, get external help when needed in order to address that, to get it out fast.
Brilliant. No, so true. And to actually ask people, what is it we're stepping over? What is it we're not talking about that's really going on here? What's really going on in the room right now? Because I don't know about you, but it feels really strange for me. And we judge other people by their actions and not their intentions, and we judge ourselves by our intentions because we're hypocrites and not by our actions. So to be aware of how others perceive us is always very helpful. You've had to pick yourself in times of up in times of adversity, as we call it, resilience quotient, RQ. What's your top tip for people about, if there was one tip about picking yourself up in times of adversity when things have gone wrong?
My top tip would be, I would say, always try to be different in the sense of, if something is really difficult and very challenging, try to change perspective, go a different route. And if this does not help, laugh. Heartful laughter sometimes can break tension.
Yeah.
And I have experienced this with a leader who did that very well. He was a very serious man, and CIO also. And when it was really tense and really difficult and very difficult also to deal in that situation, he started to laugh about himself and the situation, and then the situation changed, and you could then really start again. And this is something I really like. Sometimes I think of this.
Yeah, I like it, but I've seen you do it, and you do it really well. Not many meetings have a good belly laugh, but you are able to, and particularly as the group relaxes over some dinner, you are often at the center of a lot of laughter. I think that's really important, and it takes me back to my 20 years as a British Army officer. And in the most difficult circumstances, when perhaps someone's been injured or maybe killed, clearly at the moment when someone is killed, that's not the time to have any humor. But normally when things are very difficult, we're all really wet, cold, very tired, then someone to crack a joke about, oh, it's, good weather for ducks or whatever it might be. I don't know. Just something to get, which captures the moment and makes people put it in perspective. And I was just thinking back to your comment about sleep in Health Quotient earlier. I was taking my daughter back on the train with my 8-week-old granddaughter, and she stayed with my wife and myself here for the last three nights, which has been lovely. And she said, "Dad, I've had such great sleep. I can actually see better now because I've been able to get some sleep, and I feel better. I feel so much different." So really, people, look after your sleep. There's no doubt about it. We're almost coming towards the end, but we're just talking about brand and legacy and teams. What would you say about, in 360 feedback from other people, what is the one behavior that you would admit that you're working on? It's work in progress, and you're happy to share with us from feedback that you've had from other people, maybe me, your coach, or from other people. What have you learned about your brand that you want to work on?
So from the 360 feedback, what I receive is that I should delegate sometimes more completely. I tend to then, if it's not going fast enough, and I'm very impatient sometimes, that I'll just step in and sometimes try to help or do it on my own. And this is something I really working on, which is a challenge for me. But getting this feedback is good, understanding, reflecting myself, and also, honestly speaking, it then feels better because it gives you more time for the really relevant things I want to do. And my aim is always, being better. And this is something, it's so important for me. And I mentioned before, I really like this book of Tim Collins, From Good to Great. I know it's an old bestseller, but I still, take this from time to time. And this helps me also to look into like the most important criteria and support and questions and reflections. And this is something I do, and that works for me quite well. For my brand, I have to also honestly say it's not so easy to work on the brand, and how I want to be perceived, because you need to be very clear. And I had so many different roles, and I had so many different worked in so many different segments, that you really need to take the time to sit back and really even write it down. What do you want to stand for, and what do you want to be perceived as? And what is the connection? If it's Elke and AI, Elke and the best sales, Elke and so on. This is my to do for now the next weeks. This is what I want to work on.
I love it. And in fact, I've just written a little note down as you were talking. I thought I'm going to ask AI, and Deutsche Telekom work with Perplexity, which is a very good partner of Deutsche Telekom. Jonathan Abrahamson introduced me to them, and I love it more than ChatGPT-4. I'm going to ask it, give me some advice about how I really hone down my own personal brand. What is a little exercise? And it will tell me. I know I always use it as a little sounding board. And I'm also conscious that before, in earlier roles, you were in charge. Now, as the chief commercial officer, you're responsible for those in your charge. So you're not in charge, you're responsible for those in your charge. So that's where you want to elevate and empower them, not just delegate, but elevate and empower them and hold them accountable. You are responsible. You're an adult. You're responsible for this. What are you going to do about it? Not let me do it for you and I'll rescue you, which is, you're so kind, you often do that. But as we're going to find out in the next few days, we'll make sure that others take ownership. It's a systemic ownership by everybody to collaborate. Legacy is the final of the 8 before we talk about teams and your top tip. What would you like your legacy to be? because it's about legacy and stewardship, leaving things better than you found them. And how can others work out what their legacy should be? So what's yours first?
So the legacy in the sense of what I would like to leave behind.
In your
For
current
me,
role, in your current role.
in the current role. So for me, it's really about turning customers into fans, because
Oh, I love it.
if your customer is a fan, then they buy from you. They want to
Mm.
stay with you. They don't have to, but they want to. And this is for me really an important legacy, which I'm working on. And yeah, that's the legacy I want to leave, combined with really working towards being, not a good but a great, and being different, and have this ambition to really, don't be the average. It's Average is you will maybe be okay, but who wants to be okay? Nobody wants to be okay. I don't want to be okay.
Yeah.
I want to be like, understand what does it take me to become leading, to be better, to be different than the average. And this is what's driving me, and
I think
what's
it's brilliant. And I love this idea of turning customers into fans. It's such a great mindset, and I think it works really well. Before we go on to your 2-minute top tip, which we'll end with, executive teams and teams of any teams over there, when you've got an underperforming team or somebody in the team is a little bit toxic and they're not really pulling their weight, what is your advice to people about turning around an underperforming team?
So first of all, I think it's important to have a team where you have uh, enough good leaders and people that share your ambition, because that makes it also visible that you have someone not comply to, or someone toxic or underperforming,
Mm,
especially if you have common goals you want to achieve.
mm,
And I think, also to have, like, to show a little bit the pressure of the others, that makes it very visible who is contributing and who is not.
mm.
And I think this is important, to also have a one-on-one conversation with the team members you feel they are not yet contributing to what we need. And
Yeah.
it's always about, to help them to get there, but they need to be willing to get there, and they need to have the competence. So
Mm,
competence is easy. We can work on that. It's skills, and we need to see if they can, get up the ladder in order to be on that level we need. Otherwise, we need to find, a different job, or assignment that, that fits better. But if there is no willingness,
mm.
then I think that's critical, and then there should be a consequence, because it's not good to hold on too long on people that are toxic in your organization, and either sitting next on the bench and watching you and kind of harming everything, or doing really something against you.
Yeah, it so resonates with my experience and what many other CEOs and leaders have said. Competence or character. Character is really important. They might know what they're doing, but if their character is adrift, it's a problem. And
Mm.
then KSA, knowledge, skills, attitude. Half for attitude, far for attitude.
Mhm.
If knowledge and skills, you can develop those, but if their attitude stinks, don't hire them. And if their attitude goes bad, you need to help them find their happiness elsewhere, because it's not going to be here. So we're now on to the final piece, Elke. Would you now very kindly say who you are, what role you're doing in the organization you work in, and then give us a few little top tips that you've got in 2 minutes? Over to you.
Okay, so yeah, my name is Elke. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of T-Systems, a Deutsche Telekom company. And my top tips is actually 5 different tips I would like to share with you. The first one is, be a strategic thinker, envisioning the future and really focus on the execution. Be a learner, not a knower. That's the most important. Challenge the process and mainly yourself every day. Enable and encourage the others. Be authentic. Use your voice. And what's really important, leave your footprint.
Leave your footprint. Hey, well, look, Elke, thank you. You've left your footprint, certainly with me and those that I work with. It's a real pleasure working with you. And it was great having you as a guest on the Inspiring Leadership podcast. You deserve your place here alongside all the other interesting leaders. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for having me. It was really wonderful, as always, to talk to you and to talk in this podcast.
Thank you so much.